Good day, good people. I'm Dr. Mara Zukowski, Director of the Blessed Mary Angela Institute, housed here at Felician University. I am honored today to present to you Professor Michael J. Nyklewicz. Mike earned his master's degree from New York University in studio art and photography, and his bachelor's degree from Boston College in English and film studies. As an artist, his work has been exhibited both nationally and internationally, and he received a 2024 fellowship from the New Jersey State Council on the Arts. As an educator, he is Associate Professor of Art at Felician University, in charge of the photography, new media, and graphic design programs. He is beloved by his students, for whom he has offered a study abroad trip to Florence every summer for the last 13 years. Professor Nyklewicz.
Thank you, Mara. Welcome, everybody. And today I would like to talk with you about a painting that, again, I discovered on my study abroad excursions, and it is by Luca Signorelli, and it's the Crucifixion with Mary Magdalene. Here we go, there we go. As Mara said, I've been leading the study abroad program for actually since 2011. We've gone about 13, 14 years because of COVID. We didn't go those years. And there was one year that we went to Iceland because Italy was still closed. And we also have in the audience one of my students, Erica Hernandez, who presented earlier. She'll be joining me this year. She's going to, one of the students is going to participate. So this will help her get ready to take a look at some of the art that we have, that we're going to experience in Florence. Now, you may say, listening to my background, photography, new media, graphic design, I'm also the coordinator for our new games and interactive media program. That's a lot of tech. So what is a tech guy going to Florence, the seat of the Renaissance, which is embedded in the culture everywhere that you walk? What's he getting from this, right? Because it may seem like it's at odds. You know, we're looking at something. Photography is not even 200 years old yet. So what is it that, keeps me going back? And how do I pull in, or what do I get from this work that I then pull into my own work? Okay. So I'm going to share some of my experiences in Florence, as well as, with this artwork. And, this is often one of the challenges I face when I go with the students, because we're on a photography program. How do we incorporate it again into our work? And this, most of my students, Erica is an art major, but a lot of times the students that go, they're non-art majors. So we need to think about how we can, think about what we're seeing. Because a lot of times we're seeing a lot, okay? The Uffizi itself, which is where this painting is from, is 2-3 floors of room upon room of paintings and artwork. And I'm reminded of the time when I was in Paris, just on my own trip, traveling with the family. And I kind of had one day to myself to see some of the museums in Paris. I didn't go to the Louvre, but I went to Lingerie. I went to the Musée d'Orsay. I went to the photography museum that they have there. And then I ended up at the George Pompidou Center. By the time I got to the Pompidou Center, I can tell you that I was there. I cannot tell you what I saw. Because at that point, I was just, everything blurred together. And this kind of changed the whole way that I approach things like study abroad and also how I just approach museums, how I approach travel. I would rather see less things and know more about them than just being able to say I was there and not tell you anything. So again, this can be, the challenge that we can run into. So let's imagine a little bit about how I came upon this painting in the first year. And I don't have a lot of photos of this because early on, you could not take, in those first years of the program, you could not take pictures in museums. You can now, but still no flash. But for several years, no pictures in the museum. Okay, so again, this kind of speaks a little bit to what do we take away? What do we take with us when we're at the museum? So again, imagine the first year that I saw this piece, it was outside of the Botticelli rooms. So everybody's cramming in there. This is what it's like at the Uffizi. There's Primavera by Botticelli. To the right, you can see the Venus and the sea of people getting there. So you can kind of wait your turn, but you're shuffling along, you're trying to get there, trying to get a good picture and so forth. And you may end up, once you exit this room, a little bit like that. So that's at the Pitti Palace, Palazzo Pitti. But as soon as you exited that first year, you exited the Botticelli room, this painting was hanging to the right. And if you just kind of were trying to get to the next room, you didn't look right, you would have missed it. And not that it's a big painting. So it immediately, again, caught my eye. So what I'd like to ask is, again, what do you see? What do you think when you first see this? If anybody would like to answer. You don't have to raise your hands. You could go ahead. Erica? Okay, so you said on the right corner, you mean up here? Okay, and you said, I'm sorry, I couldn't hear you. Okay, right. That's an interesting thing. I want to come back to that in a little bit, but let's keep that in mind because again, here's Christ being crucified. Yeah, she was saying it looks like somebody is being crucified here and then kind of being taken down off the cross and headed over. And as we know, when Christ is crucified, he's crucified along with the two other men, which we could think, okay, that's maybe it. But like I said, I'm going to come back to that because there's another thing that this could be, as well as up in the left part here, the city. Okay. So again, let's keep those two things in mind. What else?
It's definitely a period piece from the century for which it was painted. by the mere colors and clothing style, then the very, very obvious, there's a split right down the middle. Like people are taking sides for who's against. I think that that's water in the background.
Right.
New life would have caused that. I can't go too much further because I knew who this was. Read every single thing about it, and so you did.
Right.
I just have really one question.
Sure.
Do you know you want to see this before?
No,
Okay.
I did not.
Okay.
You know.
I'm glad that I'm here today. I'm glad you brought it to my attention.
Right. And if you, like I said, if you walk too fast, you're coming out of that room, right? That's just mobbed with people. And if you get, and you're just happy to be away, you may just could have strolled just right past it. Today, he has a separate room on the other side of the Uffizi where it's a little quieter. You can, again, kind of more leisurely wander through, the work. So let's think about this. Well, again, as you're saying, sister, you didn't know about it. So what do? Yeah, look it up a little bit. I went out to the Uffizi app, not listed, right? They only list a lot of the big name stuff, the Venus, the Primavera. But let's look at the signage that goes with it. Luca Signorelli, okay. Born 1459, 1460, died 1523. This was done about 20 years before his death, right? 1502 to 1505, they're guessing, oil on canvas. And there's the inventory number. And what does it say? This picture was originally painted for the now demolished convent of San Vincenzo di Annalena, founded by Countess Annalena Malatesta in Florence in 1453. Figures of Christ and the Magdalene stand out starkly against the sky, while the ancient ruins and Roman landmarks in the background include an allusion to Castel San Angelo. The painting entered the gallery dell'Accademia in 1810. So it moved from the Uffizi to the Accademia where the David is, and then moved back to the Uffizi 1814, went back to the Accademia 1853, back again to the Uffizi 1919. Okay. All right. What's that tell you? Yeah, he got around. But it doesn't tell us anything much about the piece itself. You're hoping for sometimes, and there's a lot of times with, maybe the drawback of a lot of the museum signage, is you're looking for some kind of key or something, but it's not there. I can't find it on the app. What do? I could do some more searching, but, internet in the Uffizi, not the greatest. So there you are. What are you left with? Well, I'm sorry. And you can look up the painter. They don't talk too much about this piece, though. Again, they talk about a lot of his other pieces, not this one so much. So what do? Let's rely on what we know. What do we bring to this piece, right? Above all, we should trust our instincts. I see that so many times with students in that I'll ask a question and they'll try and, they'll be, taking stabs at answers and so forth. But a lot of them don't go with, again, really what they see. They think there's something else there. And a lot of times I have students say, oh, I was going to say that, but, I didn't think that's what you wanted. And I was like, yeah, just go with your instinct. Go with your gut. What do you see? Right? And we need to trust those instincts. Right? Because again, they're true for you. They're not, there's not anything wrong, really. So That's what we want to think about. Just, why does it stop you in your tracks to say, I want to look at this a little bit further? Okay. Well, we can think about it a little excuse me. Thinking about it a little technically, think about it in shapes. What we see first are shapes. Coming into the presentation today and you're looking for a seat, what are you looking for? You're looking for the shape of an empty chair. That's what you see first. You're not looking for detail. Okay, so you're looking for shapes. And that's what we have here. These are, again, there's more shapes in this piece, but these are the three basic shapes that I kind of came up with, which is, it's over here, Christ on the cross, represented by the triangle, Mary Magdalene, the red rectangle, and then the blue bar or line is our entrance, actually, to the piece. That's what we see first, before we see any detail or anything. In a split second, we see this. So you can see, I use the blue bar for her arm. Our eye comes in, follows this up, and then to Christ, which then forms the triangle. Okay, this is how we're seeing. What we then see, almost simultaneously, it happens, color. Again, if we were coming in for the presentation, looking for an empty chair, if there's a red empty chair, we're going directly to that. Okay, and then when I sit down, I may then look to the side and say, oh, Mara, I didn't even see that you're here. But she's right next to the red empty chair. So what do you see here in the way of color? Red loincloth, red skirt, right? There's red blood. There's red, again, in the background here too. So these all form connections. And again, help lead you to this image. You're going to see the skirt. You're going to come up to the loincloth. You're going to follow the blood. You're going to go up to the sign. Okay. It's really kind of what visual theory is. You're just sitting down and you're stepping back and you're just saying, how do I see? What do I see first? Right? We don't want to jump ahead too much. We want to kind of stick with, again, the basics, just so that we can see. And part of the appeal of a piece a lot of times is that how the colors work, how the colors lead us through the image. Let's talk a little bit more about color. Here you can see again the wound, and then Christ's side, again, blood coming down and so forth. So there's the red. And red, again, first thing we tend to see when we're working with color. That's why they make stop sign, red, right? But red, again, hexagons. How many sides? But, the shape and the color is what we can recognize as a stop sign. We're going too fast. We see that color. We see that shape. We don't have to read stop. It doesn't even have to say stop. We know to stop. So here, I kind of came in a little detail. So red, first thing we see, leads us through here. Bless you. Let's talk a little bit more about Christ. and how he's portrayed here. What do you think of that? What do you think of how he's painted? And if you need a comparison, take a look at Mary Magdalene, right? Look at her face. What kind of tone do we see in her face? Mm-hmm. Exactly. Get into that a little bit later too, because there's a whole thing with the connection between Mary Magdalene and Christ in this. Because again, it's not just her, it's us. Because we're putting ourselves into her place. We're following this line and we're kind of imagining that, we're there. But what about just Christ's body by itself? Very dull. Looks like he's dead. Exactly. Look at Mary Magdalene, kind of nice red skin tone. But partially what drew me to this is exactly that, how Christ is portrayed. He looks dead, right? It's this brown, green, gray tone on the skin. And even though you see that in other paintings, you don't see it that often. A lot of times, again, it's more of a regular flesh tone. So why does that stick out to me? Why? What does that say to you when you see this? That you see that he is, again, dead. What do you think? Sunday afternoon stuff.
It's not confined to a specific time. Christ is you.
Right. And that he is crucified, that he dies, right? Because I think what this says to me sometimes that maybe we forget is that, again, he's made flesh. He's a man. He's one of us, right? Comes here to die for us, for our sins, but he's human when he's here, right? This kind of, I think, humanizes him, makes him, again, really one of us, that he's dead. It's not till he rises from the dead that it becomes different. That again, it's the, then he's more in white and, kind of shining and all this kind of stuff. But it's his humanity that is on display that then, again, speaks to us about, again, our faith, basically. So, one of the keys for me when I was looking at it, I was like, wow, I don't think I've seen Christ, shown this way before. But again, there is quite a bit out there. But, for the most part, it's more, I don't want to say idealized, but maybe I will. But it doesn't show that level of, again, death and decay and so forth. So talked about shapes, talked about color, put them all together. What do we have? Composition. And we mentioned this a little bit with, again, the line bringing us up here, from her arm, connecting to Christ up into the cross and back down. So this is really, the the key subject here. This is what we're concentrating on. But then, as Erica mentioned, there is other things in our background that we also want to take a look at. So let's talk about composition here, but thinking about the concept of time and space. Because I don't believe this is another one of the people crucified. I think what he's showing us here is the crucifixion and then the deposition of Christ. Them taking him down from the cross and then carrying him to the tomb. So we have a couple of different timelines going on here. We're seeing the crucifixion, but at the same time, we're seeing what happens afterwards, which is an interesting kind of concept, especially for, Renaissance Italy, that we're looking at future, present, and future simultaneously. At the same time, Erica mentioned also over on the right, that's Rome. Rome is nowhere near where the Middle East. So, and here is Castle San Angelo, and again, other Roman landmarks. So we're not only is he playing with the concept of time, he's playing with the concept of space. And sister, you had mentioned that again, it's kind of split in half. It's kind of saying, here's Rome, here's the people who killed him on this side, here's the people that are taking care of him and taking him over to, be buried on the other side. Let's talk a little bit more about Mary Magdalene, central figure here. Excuse me. I had also never seen so many representations of Mary Magdalene until I got to Florence. I didn't really see too many here. I have to go back into the Met, take a little bit closer look, but really in Italy, she's represented in, almost every kind of painting with Christ, and plenty with where she's just by herself. And again, it's that connection. She's making that connection to Christ here, which again is our connection to Christ, right? Because again, and there's a lot that has been written about Mary Magdalene, and she's often known as the fallen woman or the woman who sinned and so forth, but it's never really kind of clearly stated. So, but it again represents us, people who do sin. And she represents, who we are. But again, this connection to Christ. And if you think about it, she's there with him all the way. She's with him at the foot of the cross. She goes with him to the tomb. She stays with him at the tomb. And she's the first one to see him, first one to go in to the tomb. Everybody else is taken off, right? But she sticks with him, till death and beyond. And that's what we tend to see here, right? Like I said, like I keep saying, that connection to Christ. Let's look a little more at the details too, right? So again, we're coming in, we're looking for that chair, right? We see the red chair, we're going to sit in that, and then we see the details. We look next to us, and as I said, oh, hey, Mara, I didn't even see you there. Because you're coming in, you're just looking for the shape. You're not looking to sit next to Mara necessarily, but you're looking to grab a chair, And so the one that sticks out to you most is the one you're going to take. So again, there's little details in this that we can see. And here we have the skull, we have the lizard. Okay. Mary Magdalene, often portrayed with a skull because it's a sign, again, of her humanity and the idea of redemption and repentance. Not so much with the lizard, but the lizard, the other thing with the skull too, we're at the place of the skull, right? Golgotha. So that's coming in there as well. The lizard, sign of rebirth, right? Lizard will regrow its tail. So it's added in there to, again, work with the idea of resurrection. Mary Magdalene is often also portrayed holding a jar of oil. And you often see her anointing the feet of Christ, preparing him for burial. So again, this idea, this connection to, to the resurrection. Inspirations, right? So we go in, we see this work, and anybody can see a work. What does it do for us, right? I'm more of a conceptual kind of artist. So, we don't come away with the painting, right? If we did, we'd be ended up in the Bargello, the Italian jail, if we did. But we come away with, again, our experience of it, the concept of it, what we saw. How does it impact on our daily, lives? Now, as a photographer, again, I was saying, what does this tech guy do with this Renaissance work? I look at the details. I look at little things. And whether I'm conscious of it or not, it'll pop up into my artwork. So I'm actually going to go back one, maybe two. Take a look at, excuse me, again, Mary Magdalene's hair, the fold in her cloak, in her clothes and things like that. Those kind of things interest me and bring me into, further into this piece. So here's some of my current artwork. Again, like I said, a little more conceptual, a little more abstract. But hopefully you can see here, obviously here's a skull from my time when I was in Paris, down in the catacombs. But maybe you can see something like her hair in here, right? The folds in her clothes, right? The piece that maybe comes out and connects to us. This is plastic, just kind of crumpled up. This is a flower. But again, I like to work with details. I like to get in close, get a little bit more abstract. So that, again, you can recognize these things, but they make you think a little bit about where you are, what's our place, in relation to this. Okay. So that's what happens. We kind of expand our visual vocabulary. We see things and we incorporate them. Okay. Now, if you're not an artist, you're not a photographer and so forth, again, how can this help you? Well, again, one experience enriches the next. You take what you learned from this, from what you saw, and again, really just take your gut. Like, what red means to you. And it's the same thing that we're seeing here. So that the next time you see something in red, you may think back to this piece and say, oh, wait, this also represents, this you know, all these things about the crucifixion and so forth. Next time you see a diagonal line, some kind of connection, some kind of direction, something pointing us to something important. Okay. So again, when you go into museums on your own and so forth, don't feel you have to take away some kind of grandiose, you know, idea. What you really just need is to interpret it on your own terms. Trust in yourself, trust in your instincts, and use it the way that you can for yourself. So, grazie, everybody. Grazie mille. Thank you very much. And if you have any questions, I'd be more than happy to
Anybody have any
chat.
questions? I have a question.
Okay,
Okay, so Mary Magdalene has a really bad rap of
Right.
being a prostitute. It is not scriptural. It
Right.
probably developed around the time of Tertullian, who was doing a lot of the
right,
anti-woman stuff.
exactly.
But I'm wondering why Signorelli made the loincloth red. It's almost as if Jesus is identifying with someone who's gotten a bad rap in
Right.
history.
Right. I think that could go to, again, a connection to her. And then in the same way that we were discussing where he's, you know, the color of his body also creates kind of a contrast between the two. But again, keeping in mind that, again, this idea that he was human, that he's capable of sin as a human. So maybe the red goes along with that. It's possible.
But then I don't understand why the sign isn't red. That has me flummoxed.
That could, again, I'm not sure. But my guess might be that it's just balance too. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, because you have bottom, middle, top, and a straight line going between. And there's a lot of red in the cross too. And again, in part of the, you know, in the deposition part too. Could have been.
When you look at his loincloth too.
Mm,
It may have.
right, you know, if we can. Yeah, that's part of it. I mean, you know, other things that as a photographer, as an artist, that I get is, again, the expressions that are captured. And this is such a beautiful expression on her face, you know, and just that, you know, that's the kind of portrait you wish you could take, but does not always happen. Yeah, these are actually, no, it's a little bit more kind of blonde, you know, strawberry blonde, I guess. I'll have to take a look again. I remember it this way. And again, these are photos that I took of, you know, of the piece. There's always, when you're looking online, when we're talking about color is handled differently by different computers. And so you can actually get color shifts where she'll become more red and, or she could go the other way, become much more washed out too. It all depends. Believe it or not, Macs and PCs don't have the same, don't interpret color the same way. They're different. Mm-hmm.
And the blood and the love of Jesus and Mary Magdalene, the great love for Jesus that she.
Right.
Great love.
Yeah, red's a great color. We do some of it in class. We do some color theory based on a German artist, Johannes Itten. And he really says, red does it all. It's love, it's hate, it's you name it. The only thing it doesn't do is what blue does, which is spirituality and the ethereal kind of nature of things, the heavens, the skies, and so forth. And that's why I say, again, just think about, your own interpretations of the colors, because that's what's bringing it in. And right here too, again, we see, the loincloth, the blood, right? So we have blood and we have, red skirt. Excuse me. But again, very, very kind of opposites. But, I could still also be red with anger as well. So, and again, maybe that's where we have like a flush coming up to her face.
We didn't say it was the colors of the French flag. It was white, blue, and red.
So I do a film video class, and one of the we talk about a trilogy by a Polish director, Krzysztof Kieslowski, who worked mostly in France, and he did a trilogy called Blue, White, and Red after the French flag. And as you can imagine, blue, again, what do you think of as blue? What do you associate with blue a lot of times? Sky, but what else? Water. What else? Blessed Mother. Yeah, she's always in blue. What if you're singing the blues? Sadness. So that actually blue has to do with death and somebody dealing with the death of, her family, basically. White, purity, which is worn by brides. So it's about marriage. Exactly. And the last one is red, and it is about love and passion and so forth. Really interesting trilogy. Great film director too. He has another one called The Decalogue. 10 short films. What's that about? Come on. The Commandments. And it was done for Polish TV, but he doesn't tell you which film is which commandment. So you have to, watch the whole series and figure it out. But really, really interesting. One of my favorite directors. So.
Oh, Mr. Hernandez.
Oh. Okay. Okay, so this one? Okay.
Want to repeat the question?
Yeah, it's so what's the significance of the skull and the lizard? And again, the placement. Again, the skull could be partially because where Christ is crucified, it's the place of the skull, or again called Golgotha. So it's an allusion to that. But again, I often think that it's because Mary Magdalene is often portrayed with a skull. And the skull then is a symbol of kind of life, repentance, which again, she represents. The lizard, again, can often represent resurrection because it can regrow its tail. It gets cut off, it grows another tail. Oftentimes too, salamanders used to be thought of as being, again, not really immortal, but that they could resurrect themselves, because oftentimes if you burn a log and there's salamanders in there, they don't really burn. They do, and they can, but it's just they escape before the heat, but it looks like that they can almost like walk through fire. So that could be another part of it too, this idea of, again, walking through fire, going through the, again, the crucifixion and so forth. Everything's in the details. May not. Okay. Well, thank you, everybody. Again, grazie. Grazie mille.
Thank you very much, Professor Nyklewicz. And I want to thank everyone for coming today, and those of you who are watching the recording of it. This is a wonderful finale to our Lenten series from the Blessed Mary Angela Institute. Thank you very much.